Hi, it's Christina.
And Kristen from
The Real Crime Podcast. Have you ever been curious about the real estate side of true crime?
What happens to houses after someone dies in them?
How dangerous is it really to be in real estate?
Where did your favorite serial killer grow up?
Well, we have the show for you. This is a podcast from the perspective of an active realtor
and a true crime junkie.
Give us a listen. You might be disappointed,
but listen anyway.
Hey y'all. I'm Mary.
I'm Christina.
And this is
True Crime Down Yonder. Everybody, welcome back. We hope you had a great Father's Day. Everybody that's not Chris Watts or Franklin Delano Floyd or
nope,
who else.
Fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys. They don't deserve a Father's Day. But we hope everybody else had a great one.
Except for the family annihilators.
Yeah, fuck those guys. Anyway, what is that? That's coming up on the computer.
I need to install an update, but I'm not doing it right now.
Okay. As long as it's not going to self-detonate or anything, we're good. Okay. Any business that we need to discuss?
Nope. I just want to do a quick shout out, you guys. As you could tell in our last episode and the episode before that, we've decided to do a little swapping with our peers. So you guys will be hearing some pretty good podcasts that are out right now that are a little underrated. Just wanted to throw that out there as a forewarning in case you haven't noticed.
There are ads right now.
Yeah, there are ads right now. So, but they're really good. Check them out. But other than that, we are covering the case that we were doing our giveaway on that somebody got right. And what are we covering today, Christina?
Yeah, so we've been teasing this on social media. We did a giveaway contest. We gave away one of our coffee mugs to someone who could guess it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was planning on releasing 3 clues, but someone got it on the first one. And so congratulations to Rachel Bass in Suffolk, Virginia. Your coffee mug is on its way.
Yeah, it's a really good coffee mug too. Like
it's
not
a
one
fine
of those
receptacle.
It's not a cheap one. Like you can wash it and everything.
You can wash it.
You can wash it and the logo won't come off.
You can actually drink out of this one.
Yeah,
it serves a purpose.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, jumping into the case. So I'm covering, this is going to be a 2-parter. This is the lost colony of Roanoke and the murder of Brenda Joyce Holland.
I've been excited about this one.
Yeah, looks like a fun one. So, okay, you remember, like, it wasn't long after we started. It may have been our 3rd episode when we did Swamp Things.
Yes, and that was probably the funnest episode we had done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We had a lot of, like, ghost stories and stuff with it.
Goddamn Edgar.
Goddamn Edgar Allan Poe.
And
fucking downer.
Tom and Pals.
Tom and Pals, yeah. So where this is located is actually not that far from there.
Okay.
It's the same kind of general area.
Yeah.
And of course that area has like a lot of history, a lot of ghost stories and shit. So we're going to get into some of that. But it takes place on North Carolina's Outer Banks. Do you know where the Outer Banks are?
I don't. Why don't you tell me?
Well, I mean, it's in North Carolina. If you look on a map,
of the islands.
Yeah, they're kind of just like hanging off the side there. It's in Dare County, and it's not far from the Dismal Swamp. It's like I want to say, I think it's within 50 miles of it.
Okay, cool.
This place was the first attempt by the English to establish a permanent colony in what is now known as America.
Okay.
Spain had already started a colony here. But
really?
This is the first attempt by the English. The first time the English go over there is the initial expedition. They just have a few men on board, and they go over and they land on what is now Roanoke Island, North Carolina. When they get there, they meet like with the local tribes, and at first things are going really well with them. Like they come in contact with the Secatans, and the Secatans are like, "Oh, look at these cute little white things," and they just want to know more about them. Everything goes well on that first expedition, and then they sail back to England to report to Sir Walter Raleigh and the Queen. Because Sir Walter Raleigh has inherited a charter from his half-brother that says that he can start a colony in the New World.
All right.
So when they go back to England, they take with them 2 of the natives, and these are Manteo, who is a Croatoan, and Manchese, who is a Secatan.
Okay. Secatan.
Secatan, yeah. And I don't know what makes why they decided to get on that boat. Because, people were trying to talk them out of it. Like, dude, don't get on the boat.
You can't get on the boat with white people, dude. What the fuck?
And Manteo's like, y'all stay here and grow your corn. I'm going to go see how the other half live. Like, don't do it, man. It's a trick. Anyway.
He showed up over there with sunglasses and cornrows and shit. Like this, I'm living the life of these white people.
So anyway, they get back to England and they report to Sir Walter Raleigh and to the Queen. So they speak highly of this place and they're like, yeah, it's a really great place. It's really lush, really green. You can grow things really easily there. It's loaded with precious metals and yeah, people live there, but they're cool. And so Queen Elizabeth's like, I'll take it. And yeah, we'll go there. We'll set up. We'll name it after me. So she decides that they need to name the colony Virginia in her honor because everybody in this goddamn country knows that this 50-something-year-old woman is a virgin.
So wait, our home state was named after a virgin
queen, yeah.
Middle-aged woman.
Yeah, well, at this point, she's middle-aged, but supposedly she remained a virgin her whole life. Like, she never married. I mean, who knows if she was actually a virgin? I don't know if they ever did, like, an exam. But yeah, she was known to be the virgin queen. Yeah. And she was, like, pretty proud of it. It was, like, her thing.
All right, girl.
Yeah, she was rocking it.
To each its own. Whatever.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I bet her dildo collection was out.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, go ahead. I wonder if they made things like that back then, though. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure you could. Anyway.
Maybe wood. I don't know. Made out of wood.
Anyway, all right. Now I'm like way off track.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. So Sir Walter Raleigh starts fundraising to set up a permanent colony there. And they plan on making this colony like a hub for privateers. Do you know what a privateer is?
Refresh my memory.
So a privateer is like a pirate that works for the government.
Oh, okay.
So he gets like the good government benefits.
Like a pirate that works for Kroger's. Okay.
What pirates do you know that work at Kroger?
Oh, have you been to the one in Madison?
Not in a while. But they're pirates?
I don't know.
I want to go to a pirate-run Kroger.
Saying Kroger's has really good benefits. Then they work for the government, don't they?
No, Kroger is not the government.
Well, slap my ass and call me Sally. I don't know.
I want to go see these Kroger pirates. Anyway, okay, we're off track again. But
it's like a pirate that works for DCS. There we go.
Yeah, they work for the government.
Okay.
So they're still going looting and stealing shit, but like the crown gets part of it.
Okay.
But yeah, they get the government benefits. They get like the great medical and dental and 401k with like the 10% match or whatever. They don't have to walk around with peg legs and glass eyes. They have prosthetics.
They have real prosthetics.
They get prosthetics and glass eyes. But yeah, it was supposed to be like a pit stop for them to pick up like goods and supplies and leave things there that they had pirated from the pirates in the Caribbean, literally.
Oh, okay.
The Spanish pirates that are in the Caribbean. So anyway, when Sir Walter Raleigh, he's excited about starting this colony, but here's the problem. The Queen is not actually going to let him leave because he's like her BFF now.
The Queen's BFF cannot leave.
No, he can't. She needs him.
He's going to hold her back.
She needs him. She's like, you're going to have to find somebody else to go. So he's disappointed, but he has to do what she tells him to do. You know, he gets together this first colony attempt, and he appoints a man by the name of Ralph Lane to be the governor, and Sir Richard Grenville is going to actually lead the mission. The first colony was founded in 1985. After they set sail for England and sailing out... 1985, did I say that? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, 1585.
Okay.
So when they set sail, about 6 ships leave. Of course, it takes months to get over there. Well, by the time they get to Roanoke Island, the ship that contained most of their provisions, like their supplies and their food, for almost a fucking year, ended up wrecking.
Oh, shit.
And like most of that stuff was destroyed. Well, when they make land, it is way too late in the year for them to plant crops. They're pretty much screwed, and they're going to have to end up going back.
Yeah.
But like I said, they've had like some shipwrecks. They've had some bad luck so far.
Yeah.
So Grenville decides that it's best to send most of them back home, and he's only going to keep 100 men to actually run this colony. So with the 100 men that are left, and this includes Manteo and Wanchese, because they had stayed in England and they had been trying to teach them English so that they could serve as translators.
Yeah.
Between the English and the local tribes. Well, this kind of worked because Manteo, he was all about these white people. So he was a really good student and he wanted to learn the English language. So he learned fairly quickly. But Wanchese is like, fuck this place.
Like,
Fuck your language. Yeah, he didn't really take too well with it. And he was very suspicious of the English's intentions.
And the other guy was just
coming
like,
back to his
look,
home.
dude, they got a lot
They're
of
so
mayonnaise
cool.
over here.
I love these people. So when they actually get there, things are not looking well for them. The 100 men that are left, they have to set up this fort. Well, adverse relations with the Native Americans are really good. And the Native American tribes are willing to help them get through the winter. They're willing to teach them things, teach them how to fish and how to trap. And also, they're just going to share like their harvest with them because they're too late in the year to plant anything. So they're going to help them get by. It's not long after they're there that they start fucking shit up.
Of course.
So when a silver cup is stolen, they swear that somebody in the Secatan tribe had to steal it, and they don't want to appear weak to these people. So what do? They go burn a whole fucking village.
White peopling.
White peopling, right.
Guys, just to let you know, I'm not racist. It's my own race.
It's our race, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they burn an entire village to the ground. And then the Native Americans start noticing that anywhere these people visit, everybody in their village gets sick and a lot of them die. And the reason for this is diseases like the Black Plague and typhus and smallpox were running rampantly through Europe.
Yeah.
And just about everybody there had been exposed, and a lot of people in early childhood. And child mortality was very high at the time. So if a person survived past childhood, they were immune to the diseases, but they were still carriers, so they could still pass it on to someone who didn't have the same immunity.
So they brought it over here.
Right, they brought it over, and of course these Native Americans had never been exposed to that stuff. So everywhere these people were going, the Native Americans were catching these diseases, and a lot of them died. And so they're looking at this, and of course, they don't understand biology. I mean, nobody really understood that at the time.
Right.
So the Native Americans think that this is a supernatural curse that the English have put upon them.
I bet you they were scared of the white people.
Right.
Like, they were just,
so they're like, everywhere
you stay away from those
everywhere
white
these
people.
white people go, someone dies. Stay away from them. And they go on to when they think that a local tribe is conspiring to attack them, they end up attacking them first and beheading their chief. So they're not doing really good at maintaining these good relations that they had started, right? So by this time, they've burned all their bridges. They're running out of food. Nobody is sharing with them. And they fear the attacks from the local tribes now that they've pissed them off.
Good job, John Smith.
No, this isn't John Smith. This is Ralph. This is Ralph Lane and Richard Grenville that are doing this.
Good
and
job,
they're
Ralph and Dick.
Yeah, that is the nickname for Richard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dick. Okay.
Ralph and Dick.
You're just calling him a dick. I guess he is kind of a dick. So when Sir Francis Drake kind of just comes sailing by because he was on another mission and he just kind of got off route a little bit, they pretty much wave this guy down like, take us with you. So they hitch a ride back to England with Sir Francis Drake and they leave the whole thing behind. They also leave behind 15 men to hold down this fort.
Only 15 of them.
Only 15. Now, I don't know how these guys got this job. I don't know if they had to draw straws. I'm thinking Grenville just kind of stood there and pointed out okay, he's an asshole.
We'll keep him.
We'll
keep him here.
He's an asshole. He he talks too goddamn much. He has kind of like a weird foot fungus. Pretty sure he's a pervert. Yeah, you guys are going to stay. Somebody's got to do this. We'll be back. Just hold down the fort. Okay, bye. And they sail back to England. Well, when they get back, of course, Walter Raleigh is pissed off because this, ultimately all comes back on him. But everybody just kind of has this attitude of like, fuck it. Like, let's just not even try this again. Let's not spend the time and the money.
YOLO.
And the lives on going back here, right? Well, everybody except for a man who had been on the first mission. And this guy's name was John White. And he was an artist. But he really wanted to go back here. So he persuades Sir Walter Raleigh to give it another shot. Walter Raleigh again decides, okay, we're going to try this again. And he fundraises, he gets the investors on board to start yet another mission. This time, he's made John White the governor. And they're not going to take as many people this time, but they are going to take men, women, and children, because this is the only way your colony is really going to grow.
Right.
So White also persuades his own family, including his pregnant daughter, Eleanor, and his son-in-law, Ananias, to join him on this trip.
Ananias?
His name was Ananias Dare.
Never heard that name.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's cool. So he persuades them to go with him. Now, this is a lifelong commitment that these people are making. They're planning to spend the rest of their lives here establishing this colony.
Yeah.
So anyway, they set sail, and this time they take 3 ships, the flagship Lion, a flyboat, and a full-rigged pinnace. So they set sail, and this time they know the hostilities between them and the Native Americans. So they don't even really want to go back to Roanoke. They don't want to settle down there. So what they're planning on doing is sailing to Roanoke to just check in on those 15 guys they left.
Oh, so they're just
they're like, hey, you guys okay?
They didn't even get off the ship. They were just like, hey, we just turn it around, Earl.
Yeah, and then they're going to head north to the Chesapeake Bay area of what is now Virginia to actually put down the fort, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they get towards Roanoke and they're going to go stop in and say hey to these men, the ship's captain, Simon Fernandez, he's trying to get down to the Caribbean to do some privateer work. So he tells White, he's like, look, I'm trying to do some pirate shit.
He's going down there to party with some bitches and
y'all
some
gotta get up off my boat. So he sends he makes them all get off the boat right there on Roanoke Island. So when they get there, the plan is to look for these 15 men first. So when they land and they, navigate through the inlets and they get there, John White, he steps off the boat and he looks around and he says, oh my God, we're back again.
Backstreet English back.
All right. And they all start doing that Backstreet Boys dance off the ship. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to write a whole musical on this. I've already got it planned out.
It could have been a musical.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to do it.
We could have made a comedic musical out of this, and it would have been great.
I'm so going to do it. Yeah. But anyway, John White's back. All right. Anyway, so they get off the ship, and when they're heading towards the fort, one of the first things they run upon is human remains.
Okay. It just
and they're not even fresh. This is an entire skeleton that's like halfway buried. Like the lower part of the skeleton is buried and the top part's just sticking out. So like the head and the torso of a skeleton are just sticking out of the ground.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the colonists almost immediately run across that and they're like, oh my God, it's Billy! Billy!
I can tell it by his buck teeth.
What'd they do to you, Billy? So they're not too thrilled about having to spend the night with the skeleton. But what can they do? So when they reach the fort, the buildings are still there, but they're completely run down and there's not a person in sight. Like this fort is overtaken with melon vines. And so they immediately start just trying to kind of repair it. They're chopping down the melon vines and trying to.
How long had it been since he had been there? What was it, like about a year
I think it had been around a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're just trying to make the best of it. They're trying to remodel this place. Well, not long after, they get some good news. On August 18th, 1587, Virginia Dare is born to John, and this is John White's granddaughter. This is Eleanor and Ananias Dare's baby. And this is the first English child to be born in North America, on American soil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
History here.
So not long after little Virginia is born, these people are like, yeah, somebody's going to have to make a Target run because we need supplies. And so White decides that he needs to go back to England to get supplies for the colony. Well, even though Fernandez, the guy that couldn't wait to do some pirate shit, even though he seemed like he was in a hurry to get to the Caribbean, he's just sitting on his ship out in the water. I mean, he's not doing a goddamn thing to help. He's just sitting out there.
He's texting his bitches.
Yeah. So John White decides to talk to Fernandez. So he talks to him and he persuades him to let him take the flyboat back to England to get supplies for the colony. So when he leaves, he tells the colonists that he should be back within a few months. And if they have to leave, they need to leave him a message so he knows where to find them. Mm-hmm. So he sets sail, he goes back to England, and he's supposed to be back within a few months, and he doesn't make it back for 3 years.
Okay.
So when he gets back to England, he is planning on just re-upping the supplies and headed back out. Well, that doesn't work out because Queen Elizabeth has declared war on Spain, and she sanctions all of the ships to fight against the Spanish Armada.
So he got stuck there.
He got stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Manteo, because Manteo's like, I love these people. And
he's in there like, Malibu Day!
So he's back there with White, but the rest of the colonists are screwed out on this island. Well, White tries his best to get back to his colony. He tries to persuade Raleigh, who's like BFF with the Queen, to let him just take a boat out and get back to these people who are going to die. Well, Raleigh pulls some strings and he finds some loopholes and he tries to get White sent out a few times. But something always happens, whether it's French pirates or it's like bad weather or something always happens and he has to go back to England. He doesn't make it back, like I said, for 3 years. And then he finally makes it out and he gets back to Roanoke. And when they come towards the shore, of course, it's like getting late, so they don't really want to go any further. But he sees smoke rising above the trees. So he thinks, oh, okay, cool. They're out there having a bonfire, like roasting s'mores and shit.
Yeah.
Well, so him and everybody on board are ecstatic and they're really excited and they start celebrating and they start playing trumpets and singing and drinking champagne and they're hoping that the colonists are going to see them or hear them and be out there the next morning to welcome them. Well, that doesn't happen because when they sail inward and they finally land on the island, they don't have a welcoming committee. Nobody is there to greet them.
No sign or anything, or?
Not at first. So when they get off on the island and they start looking around, they head towards their fort. One of the first things that John White notices on a tree is carved the word crow, C-R-O. And it looked like it had been carved really quick, like somebody was trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
So they go into the fort and there's a fence that's around it. And it wasn't there before. It wasn't there when John White left for England. But they've built a fence probably to protect themselves from these Native American tribes and to keep out wild animals or whatever. Well, when they enter in the fence, they see on one of the fence posts that there's another word carved. And this time it's Croatoan. But when they get into the fort, there's nothing there. There are no people. There are no buildings.
No bodies.
There's no bodies. There's just like a stockpile of weapons kind of off to the side. And
that haven't been touched.
Oh, we don't know if they've been touched.
Oh,
I mean, but
they're still there.
They're still there. Yeah, and this fence. And that's it.
So does it look like somebody was just living there and then just got up and left and never came back?
Yeah, but they took everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't even leave the buildings. They left, like I said, just a pile of weapons and a fence was all that was left of these people.
Okay.
And this was like over 100 people that were left here. Yeah, so at first White thinks, oh, okay, they just went down to Croatoan Island and joined the Croatoan natives because they were on friendly terms with some of the Native American tribes, including the Croatoans, because Manteo was a Croatoan, so he kept the peace.
Yeah.
He's like, they're not that bad.
Even from all the way in England?
Well, no, but when he was there.
I got you.
Yeah. Because he was like back and forth, and he was like the peacekeeper between the English and the Croatoans. So they're like, no, they're cool, man. They're cool.
And then he's like, have you ever tried mayonnaise with corn?
They're making a elote.
Yeah.
Elote. Anyway, so John White plans to just sail a little further south into Croatoan Island because he thinks that's where his colonists and his family are. When they try to set sail, this doesn't work out because the anchor on the ship breaks off.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And they pretty much have no other choice but to sail back to England. And when he gets back to England, nobody's willing to even try this shit again, first of all. So he never makes it back. He never knew really what happened to his colony.
So just like 100 people just disappeared.
They just disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah. So John White ends up just getting him a farm in Ireland and living out the rest of his days not knowing what happened to these people.
Not knowing what happened to his granddaughter or anything?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And Walter Raleigh, after the return of John White with none of the people he took with him, he pretty much just gives up on the whole mission. He doesn't do anything about this for about 10 years when he starts feeling like he really sucks at life because he's failed at like everything he's fucking tried to do. And then he decides he's going to send somebody to go like look for these people. So he sends a small mission out to Roanoke Island to try to find them. But
10 years later?
Yeah, like 10 years, close to 10 years later.
Okay.
And when he sends these people out, they don't even make it there. Like they get halfway, they're like, yeah, fuck no, I don't want to go. Like they know what's up, and they turn around. So nobody ever gets back out there to look for them. Nobody knew really what happened to them, and it just remained a mystery. Well, when the first actual permanent English colony was formed, which was Jamestown.
Yeah.
In the 1600s, which was, of course, led by Captain John Smith, John Smith goes to Chief Powhatan, who is the tribal leader of, the Powhatan tribe, but it's a huge tribe. I mean, it's like an alliance of several tribes, actually. So he has like a ton of men at his disposal. And John Smith's like, hey, Chief Powhatan, so you know, like those white people that settled here several years ago, kind of a little further south. And Powhatan's like, oh, yeah, I remember those white people. I killed them. And John Smith's like, as you should have. Yeah, I'm fine with that. As he's like slowly backing away. So nobody really knows if Chief Powhatan was telling the truth or not. Now, he may have been confused. He may have thought that John Smith was talking about like those initial 15 men that were left there.
Right.
Or he may have just been trying to intimidate Smith, like, hey, don't get out of line with me because I've done this before. I have no problem with mass murder.
I have no problem with killing the white people.
Right. So nobody really knows, and nobody really knew anything for years. It just seemed like these people vanished into midair. And there's a lot of theories on this. So, of course, famine and disease and possibly drought, because scientific research has proven that there was a significant drought during the time that the colonists were there, during the time that John White was in England.
Yeah.
So they probably had to move somewhere to get fresh water.
Yeah.
But also, of course, they could have been murdered by some of the enemy tribes. But they highly suspect that maybe they did join the Croatoans and go south to Croatoan Island. Well, nothing really comes of this. Nobody really knows what happened. But then in 1937, a man by the name of Lewis E. Hammond discovers a stone, an interesting rock, while he is vacationing with his wife. They were from California, but they're vacationing in the North Carolina area, and they're kind of hanging out in the Chowan River. So he finds this rock in the Chowan River, and he notices there's like some weird engraving on it. So he's like, oh, this is pretty cool. So he just throws it in the trunk of his car and just really doesn't do anything with it for a while. Well, it's when him and his wife are vacationing again, and this time they're in Georgia. They are near Emory University. So Hammond's like, hey, maybe I need to take this rock in and have someone look at it. So he takes it in, and he's trying to sell the rock to one of the professors. And one of the professors is interested in it, and he takes the rock, and he uses like some flour or something to try to read the engraving.
Mm-hmm.
And so he looks at it, and he notices that it is very old English. And it's really hard to make out. It's really hard to read because, of course, it's like been chiseled into a rock.
Right.
But what they kind of make out of it, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it pretty much is saying, Father, after you left, we came here. And then it went on to say that Virginia and Ananias had gone to heaven.
Oh.
And that they had lost several of the colonists, had died. But at the bottom of the rock, it was signed with the initials EWD for Eleanor White Dare.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she kind of like left a message behind.
Yeah, she left a message. And also on this rock, she told her father, like, hey, if any of and these are my words, they called them savages.
Mm-hmm.
If any of the savages give you this rock, we told them that you would give them presents. So this is a major finding. And this professor makes a big mistake. This is in the 1930s. This is during the Great Depression. Well, he takes out an ad that asks the public if anybody else has any of these stones with these engravings on them, they will pay them $500 per rock for this.
That's funny. I got that same stone in my backyard.
So, like, all these rocks start coming out of the woodwork. And they end up with a total of 42. And I'm not clear if that includes the original stone or not. But there's 42 of these rocks.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're really excited at first. And then they start, like, observing these rocks. And they notice that they are not the same as the first. And it looks like someone has used, like, a chisel tool. Like, somebody's gone into their garage and carved this shit. And those things were not around in the 1500s.
Right.
And plus the English language itself.
I was about to say, English was different back then.
Right. It's a lot different. It's more modern. Even though they've tried to make it sound like Old English, it's a lot more modern. There's some words in there that they would have never used in the 1500s. Not only that, but they have included names of colonists that were never on the original, that were never on the mission. Yeah. Because they did have a record of who were on the boats.
Right.
So they pretty much write these off as fakes and write the whole thing off as a hoax.
Oh, so saying like pretty much like the first one was...
Well, see, no, the whole thing got written off as a hoax. I mean...
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the first rock that was brought to him, it got written off as like...
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, and it ended up destroying the professor's career.
Oh,
but
man.
Anyway, these rocks just kind of get thrown in a basement of another college. And then in the 2000s, they start looking into these rocks again. And when they pull them back out and start looking at them, yeah, like those subsequent stones that came from the ad, they were totally fake. But upon further research, they believe, because of the wear on the stone, that the original one could have been real.
I believe so.
Yeah, they believe it was done somewhere in the 1500s. So they believe that one to be real.
Yeah, I believe that's real too.
So, but still it's a mystery. That's like the only hint we have as to what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke.
So there's a big chance that somebody came through and murdered a portion of them.
Right. Several of them died through either being murdered by the natives or through
and the others
famine,
probably
disease, and all those other factors. I mean, it's a hard life.
And, the others just could have, ran and not survived. But, that's crazy. Like, I guess that's one of America's biggest mysteries.
Yeah, it is.
First mysteries.
Yeah. So, of course, with a really old, creepy-ass place like this, you're going to have some ghost stories.
Yeah.
You're going to have some legends. So I'm not going to go through all of them because there's a lot of them. So you can look it up. But I'm going to tell you about a few. One is the legend of the white doe. Mm-hmm. So as this legend goes, these colonists, and of course Virginia Dare, that first child that was born here, when these colonists... They joined some of the native tribes in the area. And when Virginia Dare got older, a witch doctor was trying to get her to marry him. And she refused. So he put a curse on her that when she died, she would turn into a white doe. Uh-huh. And so people in the Outer Banks still claim to see a white doe. I guess it's the ghost of a white doe lurking about. And supposedly this is Virginia Dare.
Unsettling.
Right. And in this area, it's referred to as the graveyard of the Atlantic because more than 1,000 ships have wrecked off of the coast of Roanoke Island. So people also claim that they see ghost ships off the coast of the Outer Banks.
I've heard that before.
You've heard of the ghost ships? Yeah, so there was one ship called the Carroll A. Deering, which sank in 1921. And when they discovered this shipwreck, everybody on board had disappeared. They could not find any bodies for these people. So, what the fuck happens to people on Roanoke Island? I don't know. They just go away. But, yeah, so people also say that they see the ghost ship of the Deering. Well, let's see. Another story is the headless haunting of Teach's Hole.
Teach's Hole?
Yeah. So let's talk about Teach and his hole.
Okay.
This was Edward Teach, otherwise known as Blackbeard. He was a pirate who called the island of Roanoke Roanoke. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Roanoke.
Yeah. His home, and he was known to do looting and bad pirate shit around there.
Arr.
Well, in 1718, Lieutenant Robert Maynard severed Blackbeard's head and hung it on the bow of his ship.
All right.
So the legend has it that Blackbeard's head screamed for like hours after he'd been decapitated.
Holy
which
shit.
is not possible. Let's just know that's not possible.
It's not possible?
But yeah, they said his head screamed. And it just kills me how it's like if one of us today ever saw a decapitated head, a human head just hanging off of something, we would be traumatized for life.
Oh yeah.
Right. But
We're
it's
gonna
like
flip
back
shit.
then that shit was no big deal. It's like, oh God, look. Eddie had a bad day. Oh, well, somebody's got to clean this shit up. I get his rum.
Hi, I'm Abby.
And I'm Ellie.
And we're the Queers for Fears podcast.
We're here, we're queer, and we've been best friends for over 25 years.
We cover a wide range of topics, from true crime to horror films to urban legends and beyond. We take our research seriously, but each other, not so much.
If you're creepy, if you're queer, if you just need more LGBTQ podcasts in your ears, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, Queers for Fears Podcast, or on Twitter at Queers Fears Pod.
Patreon patrons get up to 3 bonus episodes per month, on top of our usual episodes, uploaded every Tuesday and available wherever you get your podcasts.
But anyway, so the legend has it that the headless body of Edward Teach, or Blackbeard, still roams the Outer Banks or Teach's Hole looking for his head and his loot. I mean, he has his priorities straight. I mean, he's going to get his head first, and then he's going to find the loot.
Okay.
But yeah. And also that I'm sorry, I didn't mention that when they said his head was screaming, they said his body was swimming around the ship.
Okay. It's not funny, but it's
he just wasn't going down.
It reminds me of Billy from Hocus
Pocus. You can't keep a good pirate down.
When he gets his head knocked off and he's like looking around for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a southern headless horseman.
Yeah.
Like Sleepy Hollow type shit. I think everywhere has like some headless guy walking around.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
Looking for his head, looking for revenge.
Yeah.
Another tale is of the 7 sisters.
Uh-huh.
And this one says that there were these 7 girls. I don't know if they were actual like children or if they were women or maybe teenagers, but they were slaves.
Uh-huh.
And towards the end of the Civil War, their owner set them free. And they wanted to go back to their homeland. Well, like everybody else, they fucking disappeared. But they said that 7 dunes formed in the sand for each one of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
And then, of course, there's the legend of the Goat Man.
Oh, the Goat Man.
And I think everywhere has a Goat Man, too.
Guys, we've been hearing about the Goat Man all of our lives.
Right. But this man, supposedly he lived in solitude in like a small shack in Nag's Head off in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he was known kind of as like the weird guy. He raised goats, and so everybody called him the Goat Man.
Just because he had a ton of goats.
Just because he had a ton of goats. He kind of kept to himself, so it's
Yeah.
just him and the goats.
Yeah.
when a group of teenagers were going to antagonize him, which teenagers often did, because I guess he was just the weird guy and kids are cruel and they were just trying to give him hell.
Assholes.
Well, he wasn't home, so they just killed off all of his goats.
What the fuck? Not the goats.
Right, assholes. So anyway,
Dickweeds.
when they kill his goats, and then he returns home shortly thereafter and sees that they've killed his goats, and he goes out after them, and they said this man turned into half goat. Like his bottom half was a goat and his top half was a man, and when he went running after these kids. And they said that if you still go to where his shack was, he'll chase you off.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them about the story about our mom with the goat man?
Yeah, so our mom told us the story about the goat man. And granted, like, our mom was living in Suffolk, Virginia, which is in the southeastern part of Virginia. It's like right on the North Carolina border.
Really small town.
Yeah, but, well, not anymore. But,
Yeah, but
it
it
was
used to be.
about 60 miles from the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really close. But yeah, so the story that she told, her and a few of her friends, they were at her friend's house. They were having like a sleepover and they'd gone outside in the middle of the night. Two different stories. I was given the one that they were out there just like having a bonfire telling ghost stories. I think somebody told Mary that they were smoking cigarettes and they were only like 12 or 13 years old. So,
yeah.
But anyway, while they're out there, my mom claimed that the goat man came out, ran a circle around them, and then just like went back off into the woods.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is a different goat man. I don't know if the goat man was on vacation. Maybe.
Well, legends had.
Maybe his weed man lived in Suffolk. He was
Well,
going there to
legend
buy
had
some
it
drugs.
that he
Figured
was-
freak out some little girls.
Well, you know that swamp that's behind Granddaddy's, and
Yeah.
they said that he originated from that swamp. So it
Oh,
is
okay.
probably a different goat man.
So it
but
seems
I
like
just,
everywhere has a fucking goat man.
It seems like it, but I just thought that was crazy because Mom used to always tell us that story. And then, of course, when you're younger, you don't know if it's real. But then as you get older, they still swear they saw that. And I believe them. I believe they saw
I just
it.
figured she was experimenting with some hallucinogenics. Like, okay.
No. I mean, like, she wasn't the only one that said it. It
LSD?
was the other girls.
Well, they
that were
could have
out
been on
there,
LSD
too.
too.
Mama wasn't doing hallucinogens.
Okay, you go on thinking that. Maybe they got a hold of some mushrooms. Anyway, so yeah, that is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke and the creepy ghost stories of the Outer Banks.
All right.
Pretty creepy place. So now let's get into our true crime case.
Yay.
Let me pull out my notes. I've got a shit ton of notes here.
Christina, I think you'd be a great history teacher. You could keep
yeah.
somebody
Oh
intrigued.
God, I'd be like getting turned into the school board, like.
You'd be like Bad Teacher. Have you ever seen Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz?
Yes, that would be me. Yeah.
You little shit.
Anyway, this week's case, this is the murder of Brenda Joyce Holland. So Brenda Joyce Holland was born the second oldest child to Charles and Jerry Holland. She had an older sister named Anne, a younger brother named Charles, and a younger sister named Kim. She was from western North Carolina, like the Smoky Mountain region, just outside of the city of Canton. But she seemed to want more out of life than what her country upbringing offered her. So with the help of a local doctor and a family friend in her hometown, Brenda was able to further her education.
Well, good for her.
So she starts attending Campbell University in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, and this is located more in the central part of the state. It is while studying at Campbell that Brenda falls in love with theater and soon becomes a part of the school's theater department. She takes on a job as a costumer for the Campbell players. After she gets involved in this, Brenda has big dreams of working in theater professionally, and she even wants to venture to New York City and try to make it on Broadway, wait tables if she has to. So in the summer of 1967, when Brenda was just 19 years old, she gets the opportunity of a lifetime when she lands a job as the makeup supervisor for The Lost Colony, which is a play written by Pulitzer Prize winning playwright Paul Green. And it's performed every year during the summer months since 1937 at the Waterside Theater in the city of Manteo.
So this is a big deal every year.
Yeah. It's like a tourist attraction. It brings in a ton of
Yeah.
tourists, ton of revenue. And the play's still going.
Really?
Yeah, they still do the play out there.
We need to go check that out.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But anyway, the Waterside Theater is located in Manteo, and it's located in North Carolina's Outer Banks region on Roanoke Island. Now, as you can tell by the play, this play is based on the original lost colony of Roanoke.
Right.
And the play was kind of a big deal. Obviously, it was based on the actual colony, and with it being performed in the actual location that the historical events occurred, it brings a ton of tourists from all over the country and lots of revenue for this little place. But this place wasn't just like a small town production. Its cast and crew included some pretty big names, some of which had actually worked on Broadway. Actor and North Carolina native Andy Griffith had played a role in The Lost Colony from 1947 to 1953.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
I like Andy Griffith. Hold on.
We can't do it. Okay, that's enough. Anyway, Andy Griffith loved Manteo so much that he made his home there and stayed there the remainder of his life.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He actually died there. So naturally, Brenda was super excited to get this job, not only for the career experience and possible connections it may have brought, but also because this would be an adventure for her. Because she was like a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train. Her parents were reluctant to let her do this. They had their reservations about letting her go all the way to Manteo and even further from home, because they were even unsure about letting her go to college. But they reluctantly signed, giving her permission. I don't know why she had to have permission at 19 years old, but she did. Things were different back then, I guess. So they let her go do this play. So in May of 1967, at the end of her sophomore year, Brenda prepares to leave for Roanoke Island. Let me mention that Brenda was a petite, somewhat tall at 5'7", and was described as being a beautiful girl, but not perfect. She had a minor gap between her front teeth.
Oh, well.
Yeah, everybody's got their flaws.
It's all right.
She had always had long brown hair, but in the spring of 67, not long before her trip, she cut it into a short bob cut and dyed it blonde. Yeah.
All right.
New adventure, new you.
That's how us women, like, we want to
like
change.
when we want to
change
do
our hair.
something. Yeah. So while staying at Campbell, Brenda made friends and even went on a few dates with a fellow student named Daryl Midget. Daryl's hometown was Manteo.
Oh.
Or I'm trying to pronounce it right every time. It's Manteo. But you might hear me mispronounce that. For the longest time, I thought it was Manteo. But it's Manteo.
Okay.
Yeah, I pulled it up on Google. It had the
syllable
robot thing,
yeah.
like, talk to me. Yeah. So he offers to drive Brenda to the island. So he drives her northeast onto Highway 64 towards the coast and into Dare County and over the William B. Umstead Bridge into Manteo. And he gives Brenda the tour along the way. Finally, they arrive at the home where Brenda will be staying over the summer. She's renting a room in the home of a local family, the Twiffords. Her landlady, Cora Twifford. Twifford.
Okay.
Yeah. Her landlady, Cora Twifford, and her daughters all play colonists in the Lost Colony play. So it's at this time that Brenda meets her roommate, Molly Black, who is a student at the University of North Carolina and is also going to be working for the play. Well, Brenda gets settled into her temporary home and gets acquainted with her roommate and starts her new job. Well, Brenda quickly makes friends with her new coworkers, including costumer Irene, they called her Reenie Rains, who often gives her rides to work. Before long, Brenda is having the time of her life out here. She's spending her free time hanging out with her friends, bar hopping around the islands, going to the casinos and the beaches on the Outer Banks. She even befriends a 13-year-old local boy named David Payne who sold seat cushions at the theater. He reminded her of her little brother.
Oh.
Well, this little boy had some health problems. He had rheumatoid arthritis, and he never learned to swim.
Oh.
And that's not good for an islander to not know how to swim. So Brenda took it upon herself to teach him. Oh, so she would take him to like Nag's Head, and she would give him swim lessons.
That's sweet.
So she grows really fond of Manteo and its people. They seem to be more accepting and less judgmental than people were back home. And they're pretty much like, yeah, just do you, have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was all they cared about. And they drank a lot. We'll get into
there we go.
We'll get into more of that later.
That's why they were so accepting.
So during this time, she begins casually dating two men. One of these men was Danny Barber, who was a choral singer in the play. The other was a man named Rob Breeze. Rob was an unlikely match for Brenda. He was several years older than her and had already been married and divorced and was a father to young children.
How much older?
I think a few years. I'm thinking he was like mid to late 20s, but he'd already been married and had children.
Right, and she was just 19.
She's just a 19-year-old college student. Although Brenda never made it entirely clear to anyone what happened between her and Rob, she began confiding to her friend Renee that she felt that Rob was trying to take advantage of her.
That's what she felt?
Yeah, that's what she told her friend Renee Rains. And she'd only been out with him a few times, but then she just started trying to avoid him.
Yeah.
This brings us to the night of Saturday, July 1st, 1967. The cast and crew of the Lost Colony were assembling to perform just as they had the night before. But unlike the night before, something was amiss. No one could find Brenda. Her landlady, Cora Twyford, noted that she had not come home the night before. She said that Brenda's roommate, Molly, had come home around 7 a.m., but neither she nor Molly had seen Brenda all day.
Uh-oh.
So Cora voices her concerns to Renee, who relays this to the play's general manager, John Fox. As the cast and crew discuss the issue, some point out that the night before, after the show, they had seen Brenda leave with Danny Barber in his car. If you remember, this is the other guy that Brenda's been dating.
Yeah.
Okay. So John Fox questions Danny about the last time he saw her. Danny claims that he last saw Brenda around 2 a.m. when he dropped her off in front of her house. Cora speaks up and says that wasn't true because Brenda had not come home at all. So Danny confesses that what he said wasn't true.
So why lie in the first place then?
I don't know. That's a good question. But he then goes on to say that the night before, him and Brenda had gone to Nag's Head and then went back to his house where he laid on his bed and they talked until he fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
He then says that when he woke up, Brenda was gone and that he just assumed that she walked home.
Okay.
So, yeah, he changes his story there. But one reason for that might be that maybe he was just trying to, protect her dignity or her reputation because this is 1967.
Yeah, and it looks wrong. An unmarried girl is spending the night with a man.
So maybe he was just trying to, keep people from
Possibly.
talking about her. Or it could have been something more sinister. We don't know. We're getting into that. Well, John Fox then called Rob Breeze, the other guy that Brenda was known to be dating. Breeze seemed genuinely shocked that Brenda was missing, and he claimed that he had not spoken to Brenda in over a week.
Mm-hmm.
So the night's performance goes on as planned, and after it's over around 9:20 p.m., John Fox calls the sheriff's department. He reports Brenda missing, and then he drives to the office to drop off some of the play programs that included Brenda's photo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the deputies takes the report, and Fox goes home. Well, then when he gets home, he's not able to sleep for most of the night. So he wakes up pretty early, and he calls the sheriff's department again at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. He tells the dispatcher that he is worried about this girl. This time, the dispatcher notifies the sheriff himself, Sheriff Frank Calhoun. I'm sorry. It's not Calhoun, it's Cahoon, I think.
Cahoon
then arranges to meet with Fox. After getting all the information, he tells him that he is going to pick up Danny Barber for questioning. So at around 8:30 a.m., Cahoon arrives at the home that Danny Barber shares with two roommates, Rodney Brett and Earl Mearis. Rodney Brett answers the door, but Earl Mearis is away on a trip to New Jersey to visit his girlfriend. They take Danny downtown for questioning. Danny gives Cahoon the same story that he had given the cast members. Cahoon asked Danny if Brenda could be with Earl Mearis in New Jersey. Danny says that Brenda and Earl did not know each other that well. Cahoon allows Danny to leave, but is disturbed by his initial change in story.
Yeah, I see why.
So at this point, they decide they need to alert Brenda's family as well as the media. So radio stations across the state are soon broadcasting the news, asking for anyone who has any information on Brenda's whereabouts to call the Dare County Sheriff's Department. Well, Brenda's sister Ann, while driving to church with her husband, hears one of these radio broadcasts. She contacts the local police in her area because her parents are camping on a remote mountaintop and aren't home for the police to notify them. Well, the local authorities locate the Hollands and give them the news of Brenda's disappearance. So, a little bit about Brenda's dad. Brenda's dad went by the nickname of Shotgun. Everybody called him that. And he got this nickname for good reason. He was known to be very quick-tempered.
Uh-oh.
And was known to, at times, be violent. So this is not the type of guy you want to tell that his daughter's missing to. But when they notify them, and Shotgun and Brenda's mother, Jerry, leave their younger children with Anne, and they immediately head out for Manteo to search for their daughter, who at this point has been missing for 2 days. On Monday morning, a team of about 75 searchers, consisting of mostly the cast and crew of the Lost Colony, went to search for Brenda. And they couldn't help but feel a little odd about the irony of it. Like, here's this girl that has seemingly disappeared while she was in this town working for a play that was about a bunch of people who just fucking up and disappeared.
So, yeah, they're just like reliving it again.
Yeah, so they just found like this really eerie. Well, around this time, a local man named Robert Midget, and he's not related to Brenda's little boyfriend at college.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and put this out there. Midget is a common surname on this island. It's like they all probably share the same common ancestors, but they're not, doesn't mean they're all closely related. So this guy, Robert Midget, doesn't, that we know of, have a relation to this other guy. But Robert Midget, who lived about a quarter mile from Danny Barber's house on Burnside Road, came forward to the sheriff's department. Midget told the sheriff that before dawn on Saturday morning, he heard a car that sounded like it was having engine trouble drive slowly by his house and stopped once it got about 120 yards past it. After about 3 minutes, he heard his neighbor's dog growling. He looked out the window, but the car was too far for him to see. He then heard a man say, "That dog is a big dog."
Okay.
That's quote. But didn't hear the dog bark anymore. He said this occurred around 3 a.m. and he's just listening to this shit. Doesn't feel the need to like notify anybody or anything. He said he looked out the window, but the car was parked too far away for him to see. So then he says he heard what sounded like tools clanging on the road, and then complete silence after that for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then he heard what he described as an ungodly scream coming from a woman. And still, he doesn't like do anything. He's just listening.
Because that's normal?
Because that's just what you do. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. And then everything went silent again for another 20 or 30 minutes. He said that he heard a scraping sound, like a hoe scraping the road or gravel or something. And then a few minutes later, he heard the car start. And by this time, it was around 5 a.m. and nearly daylight.
If you hear a woman screaming...
Well, I don't know.
Sorry.
I mean, sometimes, but it's kind of like a party town. And, you know, you have like a bunch of young people. They're out like, there's no college, but I mean, people vacation there. People are like partying and drinking all the time. And, you know, like, people scream sometimes.
Just for it.
Yeah. So Midget is the supervisor at a local liquor store. And on Monday afternoon, a local man named George Washington King came into the store. And as he's buying a pint of whiskey, King overhears some of the men in the store, the customers, talking about this missing girl. And then King points out that he claims that he found a wallet while driving his lawnmower down Scarborough Town Road. Well, the sales manager takes the wallet from him and looks in it and finds Brenda's ID.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So the sales manager tells King, "You need to take this to the sheriff immediately because it belongs to the missing girl." Mm-hmm. Well, Robert Midget, he's just like, old looking ass Robert Midget. He's just seems like he's constantly observing shit. So he decides he's going to time King and he's going to give him enough time to get there, and then he's going to call and ask if he's shown up yet.
Okay.
So that's what he does. After he feels like King's had enough time to drive his lawnmower or whatever to the sheriff's department, he decides to call. And he calls in and he tells the dispatcher about what King had brought into the store and asked if he had shown up yet. Well, the dispatcher says that nobody had shown up with this wallet. So Sheriff Cahoon decides to have a deputy go pick up George King. Now, let me mention, I'm going to go ahead and mention this because the book I read for research on this case, says something about this. Uh-huh. So George King was a black man, and this is the 1960s South.
Yeah.
And we've seen before how these things normally go. Here's this black man, and he's got
this white lady's
wallet. Missing white woman's wallet. It may not have gone well for him. Like, this could have very easily been put on him.
Yeah.
He could have been tried, convicted, and executed for this just because he had this wallet.
And he was black.
Right. So when they get the deputies to go pick him up, Sheriff Cahoon was pretty familiar with George King. And he had known him most of his life. And he knew that George King drank heavily, but he was pretty much harmless. He'd never known to show any violence towards anybody. But also, George King dropped out of school very early in life before he could read. So he was illiterate. So there's no way he could have read Brenda's ID and known who it belonged to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
As to why he didn't speak up as to whose wallet he had.
Yeah. And then also Cahoon also theorized that, he was down there buying this pint of whiskey. He probably chugged that shit and didn't want to pick up a public drunkenness charge.
Yeah,
So that's why he didn't immediately go to the sheriff's department, because he'd probably been fiending for that whiskey all day. And once he got it down, he's like, okay, I'm going to sober up and then I'll go talk to him.
And he was like, fuck the police.
Yeah, fuck the police. So Cahoon says, okay, George, I need you to take a little ride with me and show me exactly where you found this wallet. George King goes on this ride with him, and they go down to Scarborough Road where he said he found the wallet. And Cahoon starts looking around the area, and then he comes across a blue and white canvas bag, an eyebrow pencil, and a comb. And Brenda's roommate, Molly Black, was able to confirm that these items belonged to Brenda. Well, in this area where all these things were found, there is a pond nearby, and Cahoon has divers search this pond, and they search for hours, but they don't find anything. Then another neighbor comes forward, and she lives in the same area that Robert Midget did, where he heard these screams and, the scraping and all that.
Right.
Another neighbor comes forward and says that she heard a woman scream that night. Nobody did a fucking thing about this, but that's what kills me about it. But anyway, she claims that she heard the scream, but paid no attention to it because she says she often heard screams down that road.
All right.
I guess that's where, you go to commit your murders or whatever. Well, by this time, it is Tuesday, and it's 4th of July, and traffic is getting very heavy in this area due to tourists coming in for the holiday. So this made things kind of hard. Well, at this point, Sheriff Cahoon enlists the help of the State Bureau of Investigation, or the SBI, and he is joined by 5 agents to assist with this search. And it's also on this day that Shotgun and Jerry, Brenda's parents, arrive in Manteo, and they go to stay with the Twiffords. Well, the case soon catches the attention of the governor of North Carolina, Dan K. Moore. He was from Brenda's hometown and knew her father. Mm-hmm. So he takes special interest in this, and he's really pushing the FBI to find out where this girl is at.
Yeah, it's kind of personal to him now.
Well, like I said, the Hollands had made it in, and they described Brenda as a good Christian girl, but they were surprised to see the photo of her in the play program because they didn't know that she had cut all of her hair off and dyed it blonde. Brenda's father, Shotgun, immediately takes to the streets of Manteo and starts questioning locals and trying to get any information to his missing daughter. On Wednesday, more items of Brenda's were found, including lipstick and mascara. They were found on the road leading to the Waterside Theater, along with a copy of Zorba in the Greek, which is a book that Brenda had been reading that summer. And then her sandals were found along US 64 west near the bridge to Mans Harbor. So her shit is scattered out all over this island.
That's what I'm
much.
saying. They're leaving a trail.
Yeah, I mean, this shit's everywhere. So Cahoon then decides he needs to go talk to Barbara's housemates, who had just returned from New Jersey, Earl Mearis, because he at first thought maybe she rode up there with him. Well, Mearis stated that he had been home since around 5 or 5:30 p.m. the night on that Friday night, and that he had went to bed around 10:30. At the time, none of his housemates were home. He claimed that he woke up around 8 a.m. and then got up and left town for his trip around 10:30 without ever seeing any of the housemates. He claimed that he knew nothing about Brenda being missing until he returned home and his boss told him about it. So they asked Mearis for his girlfriend's phone number, and then they also asked him to take a polygraph, to which he agreed.
Don't ever take a polygraph.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and put that out there. Our PSA for the day. Don't ever take a polygraph.
Even if you know you didn't do it, don't take a polygraph. Okay.
So pretty much there's no trace, besides these items they found, at this time, there's no trace of Brenda. Nobody knows where she is. People are coming forward with information, some of which is helpful, but not helpful enough because they have not found her. Well, on Thursday, July 6th at around 10:15, Major John A. King of the North Carolina Civil Air Patrol spotted something as he was flying his small plane over the Albemarle Sound. He circled in for a closer look and discovered what looked to be a dead body floating in the water. The body was floating face up near the shore, bumping up against cypress trees. So him and his co-pilot radio into the sheriff's department and give them the coordinates of where this is located. Sheriff Cahoon heads out to the mainland, and he realizes he's going to have to take a boat out to get her. And even though they're located on the coast and they're located on this island, the sheriff's department does not have a boat. So he has to borrow one. So he borrows one from a local resident, and him and the resident go out into the Albemarle Sound to try to pull what they think is Brenda out of the water. Well, they get her, and they have to use a tarp to bring her into the boat to get her back to land. When they get her back to land, they start looking at the body, it had already started to decompose and it was bloated, but it also bore numerous lacerations and bruising as well as marks across the neck. The body was dressed in a maroon skirt and a sleeveless top with a leopard print design. And I'm thinking this was kind of like an undershirt.
Yeah.
Like a teddy or something like that. It's like a spaghetti string shirt. And also she was wearing a silver necklace, but she had no shoes. Now, this person had blonde hair, but most of the hair was gone. Only a few strands remained on the head.
Was it cut off or was it from
decomposition in the water? Yeah. So from the descriptions that Sheriff Cahoon had received about what Brenda was wearing, he could pretty much identify her as the body of Brenda Joyce Holland.
Oh, my God.
Once they load the body up into the corpse to send it off to Norfolk for, the medical, an autopsy, Cahoon tells one of his deputies, go get Danny Barber. So the deputies go pick out Danny Barber and they bring him to the scene. They bring him to where Brenda's body is. Mm-hmm. The reason for this, and Cahoon could have her parents are there, so he could have gotten her parents to identify the body because that's what they normally do. But he wants Danny to do it because he wants to see Danny's reaction
to her body.
To finding her body.
Yeah.
When Danny gets there, Cahoon says, Danny, I want you to go look at her and tell me if that's Brenda. And Danny goes and looks, and he just pretty much replies, that's Brenda.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Yep, that's her, bye. Are we done here? I've got shit to do. And so Cahoon finds it really strange that Danny could positively identify Brenda given the decomposition of this body.
Yeah.
The state that it's in.
Because of what she was wearing.
Yeah. But as if Danny had read his mind before Cahoon could even ask the question, Danny just says, well, I can tell that it's Brenda because of the necklace on her neck, because Brenda had shown him this necklace before and explained to him that she had won it in a local beauty contest back home when she won Miss Congeniality the previous year. Well, the sheriff lets Danny go, and of course they process the crime scene. Well, while they're processing the crime scene photographer, Adcock Brown, he removes the necklace and rinses it off in the water and then took some pictures of it and gave it to the sheriff.
Okay.
Which is not what you do.
That's a no-no.
Yeah. So they send the body off to the Virginia State Medical Examiner's office in Norfolk, and it's because North Carolina didn't really have one. Not only that, but the medical examiner's office in Norfolk was known to be had a really good reputation.
Yeah.
And it was close by. So they sent her up there. Now, the eerie thing about this is Brenda had never been to Norfolk. But the night before she went missing, before the play that night, her and some of her friends were talking about taking trip to Norfolk. Really soon. And now her body was getting sent there. So that's kind of sad.
Yeah. It's not really the way you want to take your trip.
Right. Cahoon goes back to the Twyford's house where he has to notify the Hollands. And he gives the necklace to her father. And of course, her mother obviously is devastated and begins crying immediately. Well, her father, shotgun, told the sheriff, all I want you to do is tell me who did it.
Ooh. He's going to do his own little injustice.
Right. And the sheriff was afraid to tell him what his suspicions were because he was afraid he would go kill Danny Barber because that's who he was looking at.
I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want no guy named Shotgun coming
after me. Yeah.
So.
Don't kill Shotgun's daughter. Anyway, so that is where we're going to leave you. I think we've taken up enough of your time for this week. But next week, we will discuss more about all of the suspects involved in this case. And this is an interesting group.
I'm already intrigued.
Of people. Yeah.
So
we're going to see if we
cliffhanger.
can find out what happened to Brenda Joyce Holland next time. I guess that's it for now. Hit us up on Facebook at
www.facebook.com/TC
check us on Instagram at
TC_down
see what we're tweeting at
down crime.
Down. We always find that funny.
I don't know because it's just so straight to the point at down crime.
And you can always send us an email at tcdownyonder@gmail.com. You can give us your case suggestions, any criticisms, any personal stories, creepy personal stories that you might want to share. We'll read those.
We want to release another episode throughout the week, and we want to hear your stories.
Yeah. Or just, let us know what you think. Anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah. Oh, also check us out on YouTube, guys.
That's right. We are on YouTube. And, of course, you can listen to us on just about any podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio.
We dare.
Audible. Yeah, we're there.
We dare. We love you guys.
Stay away from the pirates at Kroger that Mary swears work there. I've never seen these people, but obviously they're lurking around. Watch your bags. Because they're real, y'all.
Okay. I love y'all. We love y'all. Bye,
y'all.